Hello, I'm Dr. Christian Augustin with Bayside Chiropractic Rehab and Laser Therapy. So today we're going to be continuing our talk on how chiropractic was formed and the kind of the war that has lasted quite a while between the chiropractors, the AMA, American Medical Association, and the Big Pharma, or the drug companies. And to understand this, you have to understand what was going on at the turn right around the early 1900s. Again, we went through that. Chiropractic kind of started late 1890s. The AMA was formed in 1847. And then there were osteopaths too that were formed in the late 1890s. So there's quite a bit of competition. The AMA was a little bit ahead of us, the doctors. So it was about 50 years though. We make it sound like it was, a long time. It wasn't that long. So at the turn of the century, what was going on is the doctors were restricting into their profession, the MDs, because there was too many of them. And there was all these different potions and cures and drugs and homeopathy and all this stuff being sold to just regular people for their illnesses. So the AMA wasn't making a lot of money at that time. So they needed to increase their revenues. So they made a deal actually with Big Pharma, what we know as Big Pharma today. In the early 1900s, a lot of the initial big pharmas, especially coming from Germany, wanted to get their products out there. So they decided to spend a lot of advertising money with the AMA if the AMA would endorse their products. So it worked out well. And basically what happened was the whole purpose was get their products sold. AMA makes more money. There was absolutely no purpose on getting anybody better. It wasn't for the people. It was a symbiotic relationship at that time. And it worked. Lots of money went into the AMA, and then lots of money went into Big Pharma. Lots and lots of money, because they had a category of better drugs. So that continued, and for some, still in ways continues today. But what happened with osteopaths and chiropractors, they wanted you to get better using your own body, your own immune system. Well, that was not what these big pharma wanted. So we were a threat. So were osteopaths. So osteopaths eventually became engulfed into the medical profession. In other words, they are now licensed through medical doctors and controlled by the AMA. Whereas chiropractors still believe that, drugs weren't the solution. Well, now what's going on is, if you've noticed, most drugs do nothing to fix anything. They're all about symptom relief. You go to the doctor, you have GERD or you have gastroesophageal reflux, acids coming up into your esophagus. Well, you can see all these drugs, Prilosec, Nexium, before that, ranitidine or Zantac. None of this it was just to make the symptoms go away. And the drugs have become worse and worse, and the side effects worse and worse with these newer drugs, that you're almost better off taking the older drugs, because it's hard to get off the new ones, because they decrease your body's ability to make the chemicals that break down your proteins. So you can't get off of them. And that's the main problem with Big Pharma. Now, I'm not saying all medications work like this, but the vast majority do. Example, statins for cholesterol. They bring down your cholesterol. Well, if your cholesterol is normal, why don't you start trying to keep it there with diet? Have you ever heard of anybody being recommended to go off a statin when their cholesterol is normal and do it via diet? No, it'll never happen. Basically, what Big Pharma does is it gives you a drug and then wants you to be dependent on it because that's sales. And then they come out with a newer and better version, which only the doctors can prescribe because there's a patent on it and it costs hundreds, thousands, or in the case of certain drugs, tens of thousands of dollars a month. Then when that drug runs its course, it goes on a shelf. Why is it all of a sudden non-prescribed? It's fine to be non-prescribed, but before you had to go to the doctor because it had to be prescribed by him. You couldn't get it over the shelf. It's not because it had to be that way. It's because they made more money that way. So, and don't get me wrong, doctors do a great job. I have a lot of friends with doctors. I think it started off the wrong way, and they're trying as much as they can to correct that. But as far as Big Pharma is concerned, they're not your friend. They have been gouging the American public with most of the drugs being made here. We're one of the only countries that allows advertising for drugs. You don't see drug advertisements in other countries. Why? Because they're such a big market. Because they want to sell them. The problem is chiropractors have always wondered why don't they want, why? Because we're a threat. If we're around, even though our bills are so much smaller and our care is so much less costly, if you're coming here and you're actually getting better, you're not buying their drugs. And that's one of the biggest problems. Insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies invest. Insurance companies, another one. They invest. Their highest amount of stocks are fast food chains, which make people sick. They want you sick. It will increase the premiums. The drug companies want you sick because you keep buying their drugs. Look at what they invest in. It's not in health. It's in keeping you sick. So, we need to make a switch. We have to take away money from these pharmaceutical companies. And we can't let them combine together because the only thing we got going for each other now is that they fight amongst each other to make more money. If they start conglomerating like they are, then they won't fight amongst each other. They'll just take it out on us. So us being everybody. There won't be any competition. There'll be a monopoly. They'll charge whatever they want, and they'll control everything. Lobbyists, the highest amount of lobbying, Big Pharma insurance companies. And they're not interested in making you well. So all this wellness and all this other stuff, no. Look at what they invest in. Fast food, one of the biggest, to keep you sick. So if you have any questions and want to try a different way and not be dependent on just medications, not saying that some of them aren't really necessary, so don't get me wrong. But if you want to get rid of the ones you really don't need, why don't you give chiropractic a try? Give us a call. Again, I'm Dr. Christian Augustin with Bayside Chiropractic and Rehab. My number is 251-990-8388. Thank you very much.